Hey everybody, it's Joe with J Blake Photo. To get started on today's video, I just have a quick question. What do you think of the new logo? I've been shooting a lot more landscapes and getting out into nature, doing mountain biking, of course, and just doing a lot more outdoorsy type stuff. I feel like it really just kind of points in that direction a little bit better than the old logo. So let me know down in the comments what you think. That's better. So if this is the first time that you visited my channel, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button down there and make sure you turn the bell on so you get notifications when I put out new videos. I like doing videos about photography, videography, drones, technology, travel, and all sorts of fun stuff. In a previous video, I had mentioned that I am going to be doing a lot of travel, and so I'm looking for input from my viewers on where I should be going in my two destinations, Maui and Holland. So if you've got some good ideas for photo opportunities there, go ahead and hit me up at jblakephotog on Twitter or at jblake.photo on Instagram. In today's video, I want to talk about something that I mentioned in a previous video where I talked about upgrading to OS 10 Catalina, OS 10.15. I took the plunge, I jumped in. For those of you who've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I have been using a 2015 MacBook Pro, which I actually got in 2018. Link up here to the video about that. It's got the good keyboard, it's got all the ports. There's a reason why I went that direction. But I also have an external GPU, and I was a little nervous about whether or not that was going to work. So I went ahead and checked on egpu.io. And the folks over there made it clear that with the Purge Wrangler script that I'm running, I was able to get that going without any trouble. And so far, it's been working like a dream. If you're an Apple MacBook person, you might know that Apple limits your ability to use an eGPU with the older MacBooks. There's not really a reason for this, other than just kind of forcing you to upgrade to the Thunderbolt 3 MacBook, but my laptop is a Thunderbolt 2 MacBook, and with a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter, I'm able to attach an external GPU, and with a quick script in the terminal, I'm able to get that running. So we're going to talk about a similar issue today, also with 10.15 Catalina, because you might, like me, have an older MacBook, and you might also have an iPad or iPad Pro, and you might want to use one of the really cool new features that came out with Catalina, which is Sidecar. But unfortunately, anything before 2016, the dreaded butterfly keyboard MacBooks, the 4-port all USB-C MacBooks, everything before that was excluded from the list of supported devices. So you couldn't do it. It just wasn't an option for you. But the word is that there's a way around that. So we're going to dive in, try and make it work, and we'll see what the results are. So if you didn't see some of the features in iOS 13 or iPadOS 13 and macOS Catalina, which is 10.15. One of the features was Sidecar. Now, before we had iPads and Apple Pencils, if you wanted to draw on your computer, you normally had to have what we used to call a drawing tablet, before tablets were tablets. And what you would do is you would get the special tablet. The one that I have is made by Wacom, or Wacom, however you want to say it, and it's a tablet that you sit on your desk, and it comes with a stylus, and you're able to draw with pressure sensitivity, and it also gives you some kind of option button. Here, let me just show you. So this is the Intuos 4 by Wacom, and it is this is the large, I think, and it works really, really well. So you've got the drawing surface here, and then down here you've got these control buttons, and then this is your stylus that you would use, and you would draw on it. So it was great for retouching. It was great for photo manipulation. Great for art if you did a lot of drawing. In iOS 13, with the iPad and with macOS Catalina, Apple has come out with a very similar feature called Sidecar, which allows you to either use the iPad display as a second display, or you can use it as kind of a mirrored or duplicate display for your window, and you can actually draw on your window using the Apple Pencil. This is a super cool feature. I really want to try it out, but I have a 2015 MacBook and it doesn't support the feature, although my 10.5-inch iPad Pro does. Now, this script comes to us courtesy of appletoolbox.com. I'll go ahead and put a link down below. I'm going to be copying and pasting the script into my terminal, and hopefully this is going to work. So step one is to plug the iPad in over USB. And of course, you have to be running Catalina on your Mac, and you have to be running iOS 13 on your iPad. Now it's plugged in, and the way that we know for sure that it doesn't work without this particular adjustment is that in my system preferences, there's no information here about Sidecar. So now we're going to go ahead and open up the terminal here. Now with terminal open, I'm going to go ahead and paste this command in, and I'm going to go ahead and enter. It is not available for you at this time. To see this preference pane, you may need to connect a device to your computer. Okay, so that didn't work, and I think the reason that it didn't work is because my iPad was not technically connected to my MacBook. It was connected with a cable, but I don't think that cable was actually registering. And the reason I know that is because the iPad wasn't charging. So I've switched cables, although the only cable I had was a really short one for some reason. And so I was able to put in to trust this computer, and I'm going to run the command again. Okay, I'm going to try and do a reboot of my Mac real quick and see if that fixes it. Okay, so now I've double checked. I definitely have the iPad attached, and I can see it in Finder now. That's another one of the changes in iOS 13 Catalina. And so now we're going to go ahead and open up a new window in our terminal, and we're going to can't open Sidecar because it is not available for you at this time. Okay, so that's not working either. Okay, so I found a different script. It's actually like a patch. So I'm going to try and run this. I'm going to take the plunge and see if this works. So the first thing I got to do is back up. Okay, so this particular patch, this script, it requires you to disable system integrity protection, which I don't normally recommend doing, although I have to have it off to make Purge Wrangler work, which is how my eGPU works. So I'm already living dangerously, but let's go ahead and just double check. You can type in this command. All right, so I'm not really sure how much of that I actually got on the recorder. So unfortunately, the original script that I was going to use, it didn't work. So I found another script. It's actually a patch that you have to get, and it requires you to install developer tools, which I didn't have on this machine, so I had to go through all that. It's free if you have a developer account, though. And I was able to get the patch and get it installed. The problem is that I am running, you can kind of see it here, I am having to run OBS through, and OBS is Open Broadcast. It's what I use to record my screen here. I was having to run OBS through Terminal so that it would get all the access that it needs for the microphone and the desktop to record. But every time I would run one of these patches or commands through it, through Terminal, to get this patch to work, OBS would crash. So I don't even know what I've recorded, and the microphone for this camera is actually over here, because that's normally where it is, and I'm using this microphone to record this here. So anyway, it's kind of a mess, but I got it to work. At least I got the patch to work. So now I'm going to reboot my Mac and we'll see what happens. In System Preferences, hey, we have Sidecar. Let's see if the actual iPad is in there. Okay, connect to selected device, Joseph's iPad Pro. Okay. It looks like it's working. Okay, so it works both, I assume. So now this feature works both with USB and with Wi-Fi. You know, actually, after a couple of minutes, it kind of stabilizes. This isn't that bad. It's interesting. There's some kind of strange artifacting. If I were to record my iPad screen, do you think that would just totally crash everything? Okay, so this is a first. I'm recording myself, I'm recording my screen, and I'm recording my other screen here. So it looks like Sidecar runs as an app. So if you double tap here, you can actually hop into Sidecar. So now I'm in the Sidecar app, and I am recording my screen. We'll see whether or not this actually records when it's all done. This is very responsive. All right, let's get crazy and launch Photoshop. Oh, okay. All right, I understand. So right now it really does, when Sidecar is active, it really does work just like an extra display. So I'm going to go over into Displays, and I'm going to go to Arrangement. There we go. Okay, and there's my iPad. So I'm going to go ahead and put my iPad down here as a third display, and there we go. So you have the choice of either doing it as its own display or doing it as a separate display. And I've got it set for default. Okay, and I'm going to bring Photoshop back. And I'm going to drag Photoshop down into the iPad window. And we're going to go ahead and just snap it to the whole screen. Okay, so now we have Photoshop running. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and open up a photo that I took of myself a while back. So it opened it up over here. Okay. So it's going to open up in Camera Raw. Why don't we just open image and we'll play with it down here. Okay, so it opened it up in Camera Raw. Let me brighten this up here. Okay. It's interesting when you actually start looking at the iPad, you don't really have as much screen real estate. There's just a lot taking up room on the screen. And every time you move it, it just gets all weird. The quality really kind of bouncing up and down. That's really, really interesting. Okay, so I've got my face here. Let's go ahead and zoom in. I've got these creases on these worry. They're called worry lines. They're not worry. I don't worry. I do this with my brow a lot. And I've had them since I was a kid. I always remember having them. I don't think I've ever not had them. So what if we were to, and interestingly, I can do some amount of manipulation, but that doesn't work. Oh, okay, so I see these controls down here now. These are the controls that would normally be on the bar. And so if I had a MacBook with a bar on it. Okay, I don't know what that's supposed to do, but it didn't do anything. Okay. Well, right now I just want to zoom in. So I'm going to zoom in to my forehead. Okay, and I'm going to open up my layers panel, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer And I'm also going to duplicate this layer. I like to lock that. I like to create a duplicated layer and kind of lock it. And I'm going to go up here and we're just going to use the healing brush tool. That'll be the, no, I don't want to learn how. I know how. Stop it. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use this, this layer here, and we will call this, oh, hey, we bring up the keyboard. That's cool. We'll call this healing. And I'm going to have it sample all layers, and we're going to do content aware normal mode, which is fine. That will probably bring this down to about 25. Man, I was extra sweaty when I took this picture. I'm all shiny. Should have put on something to matte my... Should have done something about that. Okay. So just a quick little bit of that, and then we'll turn that off. Turn it back on. Maybe if I put this on a stand, I don't hold it. I think that'll be better. Okay. Now I can still use my mouse on here, but it's much, much slower. Honestly, the latency from the pencil is pretty good. Okay, so now I think since I've kind of had a chance to play with this a little bit, I mean, the responsiveness is pretty good. You know, the ability to, you know, just kind of manipulate some of it with your finger. Some of it's a little weird. It's nice, especially when you're doing corrections and that sort of stuff. I will say that, you know, the pen doesn't work exactly like a mouse. There are definitely some things that need some work. And because of the amount of compression, at least when you're using the wireless connection, because of the amount of compression that's actually going into this image, you don't get the kind of thing that you would normally get on your actual display, and you don't really get what I think is the full capability of the iPad screen. That's probably resolved when you use it with a cable, but I would need to test that out first before I would decide if this thing is actually going to replace something like a Wacom tablet, because the precision is really, really amazing with that. I'm curious, is anybody out there who's watching this video, are you using a Wacom, however you say it, tablet right now? Are you using the Cintiq, which is their screen that this feature really competes with? Or does it really compete with? I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. But this was a fun little exercise. I will link down below to the patch that I used and the README file, the instructions for how to do that. Just know, you know, that you do it at your own risk. Modifying system files is, of course, a you know, a dangerous thing, and I do not. And I'm not responsible for anything that happens to your machine. But if you're running one of the older Macs that are compatible with Catalina but did not get to the list of this particular feature, then this might be something to try, especially if you do own an iPad or an iPad Pro. Just a couple quick notes. You do have to have, officially support this feature, you do have to have a Skylake or better, which is basically your 2016 Mac. And I believe any iPad that supports the pencil. I think that's the thing that they really have pushed there. So if you have the new MacBook, or if you have even that 10.2 inch new iPad, which I think I'm going to review on the channel soon, I do have one to play with, then go for it. It should work fine for you, and I'd be curious to see how that goes. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. I hope you enjoyed this little process. I hope that this all edits together well. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure when you hit subscribe that you hit the bell. That way you get info on new videos that I'm posting. Go and follow me on Instagram at jblake.photo. Follow me on Twitter at jblakephotog. And I will hopefully see you in the next video.